Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now in this video, as I promised before, I'm going to share with you guys some tips on how to buy a Monstera Albo and what to look for. Now for those people who haven't bought one before, this is actually a really good video to enable you to be smarter in terms of how you look for a Monstera Albo plant, because you don't want to buy one that won't give you that nice, good, healthy variegation, which a lot of us really in the plant addiction world have been looking for if you guys are just into it now. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the very first thing that I would encourage you guys to look for and inspect, especially if you're there in person when buying a Monstera Albo plant, is to compare it with a Monstera Constellation. Okay, so like what I shared before, here is the Monstera Albo that I have, okay, and then another example of it is the Monstera Constellation at the back there. I've also got another Monstera Constellation here as well. Okay, now, alright, let's talk about the differences. So the number one difference that you guys would usually look for, and I should really create a video on that, is you need to look for the variegation. Okay, have a look at that. Okay, see how this is actually quite whiter compared to this, which is a lot more creamier. Okay, you can see the difference there. This is a Thigh Constellation with just a little bit of variegation with a huge sectoral area. Okay, this one's got less sectoral variegation. However, it's much more whiter as opposed to that, which is much more creamier. Okay, number two, have a look at the color of the leaves. Okay, as you can already see from these two, this one has a bit more of a luscious, I wouldn't say healthy because this isn't unhealthy either, but it's much more greener and brighter as opposed to this one, okay, which is a little less green. It doesn't mean that it's anything less as well. If anything, Thigh Constellations are actually much more stable and stronger in general, okay, and that's why it's a lot more cheaper in a way. But those are the two main differences. Now, I think for a future video, just because it's of interest, I will make a separate video of that. So if you are interested in that separate video, please do keep an eye on that as well. Alright, now going back to the actual Monstera Albo. So when you're buying, what is it that you need to look for to make sure you're getting a good quality Monstera Albo? Now, for myself, and I guess this is also just a personal opinion, I know that for the price that I paid and the type of Monstera Albo juvenile form that I got, that I did get quite a good price. Okay, so number one, what you need to look for, especially if it's a cutting, okay, we'll look at it from top to bottom, is the leaf. Okay, so with the leaf, number one, look at it and see if it's healthy. Okay, this one appears really, really healthy, as you can see. Oftentimes, if you can see dark brown patches that are quite massive, that it is a sign that there is an underlying problem either with the stem, the root, or the plant itself. Okay, so if 100% of that looks really healthy and nice, then that's already a good indication that it is a plant that is going to thrive. Number two, okay, with regards to the leaf that you'll be looking for is the variegation. Obviously, the difference between a normal Monstera and the variegated Albo is its variegation. Now, when you're looking at it, okay, don't try to think that just because a Monstera, I know this is a Thigh Constellation, but I'll just use it as an example, but just because a Monstera Albo has like a half moon shape or much more variegation, that it's actually good, okay, because often it's not. In fact, you know, this particular Monstera Constellation, even though I've had it for like more than 6 months now, I am expecting that eventually in future that this variegation would probably lose itself. I'm so sorry to say that. I shouldn't, I feel bad. It's kind of weird when you talk to your plant and then say things like that, but it's true, okay? Oftentimes, variegation don't last as frequently as you'd like it to be, just because that particular white area doesn't have any chlorophyll in it, okay, which means that it can't photosynthesize and it can't maintain itself. So it needs to have at least a spread out amount of green area where the chlorophyll is actually present in the leaf. I'm pretty sure it's called chlorophyll. Okay, so with regards to the variegation, number one you're gonna look for is the variegation spread out? And also, is the variegation at least 45 to 60% of the leaf? Now, there are different types of variegation in a particular leaf, okay, and several of them I can speak about here. Number one that you need to look for is sectoral variegation. A little bit of sectoral variegation is okay, is actually good, okay, because if you have too much of this, then the leaf or the plant can't actually maintain itself. What you want to look for is the one that's sparse, kind of like this and this. I know that for some people who don't really know plants, you might think, it looks sick. It's not. Okay, but if you have a sparse amount of variegation there, then you know, okay, that the variegation will actually get maintained once it starts growing more shoots. Okay, if I turn this around, okay, you'll be able to see that there's also variegation at the back of it. Okay, now the sectoral one is quite evident because you can see that back to front is actually pure white, but this bit here where there's white at the front, it's green at the back. Okay, so that's actually quite good because you know that even though there is a part of it that's variegated, that there's still an area that's green absorbing light to actually maintain that plant. Okay, so that's a really good thing to look out for, and a lot of people don't often know that, and some poor buyer who don't know actually might buy either a half moon shape or a fully white Monstera Albo, which you should never do because that won't survive and you're just throwing away money basically. Okay, all right, the next thing that I would usually look for when I am inspecting the Monstera Albo is the stem. Okay, so this particular stem here, with the stem, I'm gonna show you guys a separate video somewhere there on the side or a cutscene. What you want to look for is the stem having a little bit of variegation line on it, because it actually then shows that it is a legit Monstera Albo and not just, I'm sure that they can't paint it or genetically modify it somehow like a Monstera Constellation. But yeah, you would look for the stem to see whether it's got white streaks on it. If it has white streaks on it, then 100% that is a Monstera Albo. Okay, otherwise you might have just some random tiny spot on the leaf, but if the stem doesn't have it, it's not going to maintain that. Now, the other thing that you would look for in a stem is the actual stem itself, which again, I'm going to show you guys a separate video just right there, where there is actually white streaks on it, okay? And you want the white streaks to be quite spread out. If it's not, then there is a highly likelihood, okay, that there's gonna be random tiny shoots of sectoral variegation here and there, where eventually it would become half fully variegated, half not, half fully variegated, half not, until eventually when you propagate that, it's gonna lose its variegation altogether. When I'm speaking about that, I'm not speaking from experience, I'm speaking more so for the common things that I have seen, heard in a lot of posts in public plant groups as well. So just be careful of that. Okay, so as you guys would probably have noticed there on this particular Monstera Albo that I have, is that the stem variegation is really good. Okay, as you can see, it's quite spread out and the streaks is everywhere. It's not just in one area, so that's what you want to look for. Okay, the other thing that you would look for in a stem as well is in relation to the end of where it's being cut. Okay, so what you guys will notice here is that the area from which it was cut from propagated, when it was being propagated, is actually quite dark, but it stayed there, okay, because it's healing and there's a wax at the end of it. Now, usually that's what wood sellers do, okay, to ensure that if ever that area doesn't rot. Okay, now this particular seller that sold this to me didn't wax it, I believe, but because I was really cautious about it, I myself have been the one who actually dipped it in wax to make sure that if there are any issues with it, that it doesn't spread. I know that the end of it looks a bit dark, but it's been like that for 2 to 3 weeks now, which is when I owned this plant. So I know that this is healthy, it wouldn't grow further and spread into the other stems as well. Okay, the other thing that you would look for in a stem as well is also the shoot. Okay, are there any growth points? It's important for you guys to consider this, because if you don't look for a particular growth point that is about to shoot out, then it may take from 6 months to 1 year for that to actually stabilize and grow. This particular Monstera Albo had a growth point, and in fact 3 weeks ago it's even much more tinier. It's actually protruding even better now, as you guys would see there on the image. And this particular growth here, as you can see, it's already broken down the top layer as well. So I know that there is going to be a new plant coming out of this very, very soon. Now, the other thing that I would also look for and inspect, and certainly I did ask the seller to remove it from it, it's the medium that it's in. Okay, so currently this one is being propagated with a sphagnum moss that's moist. Make sure that that particular medium that they're in isn't wet. Okay, if it's in a sphagnum moss, it's good. It's kind of much more of a safer, comfortable area that I've found, especially when you're propagating variegated monsteras, because it's quite a controlled environment. And also sphagnum moss are generally healthy, and also there's not a lot of bacteria in there that could potentially rot the roots. Okay, if it's in leca, I've not dealt with that before, or water, I wouldn't keep it in water for too long. If it's in soil, that's even better. Okay, but the other thing that you would look for now, after you look at the medium of it, is the roots. Okay, if it's already in soil, you want to make sure that the roots are actually visible. Okay, and what I mean by that, okay, I've got this Monstera, the Constellation here. Its roots are actually visible, okay, because it's in a clear pot. And as you guys would actually see from this root system is that it's white. And what that tells me is that there is no root rot in this, and it's something that's really desirable. Okay, so that's what you would look for if it's in a soil. However, okay, if it's in a different medium, then you would ask that seller to maybe remove that medium and have a look at it. In this instance, I won't show you guys, but I did actually remove everything. I had a look at the roots, had a look whether there's any root rot or signs of any root rots at all, and there wasn't. In fact, what you guys will be able to see here, if it allows me to adjust it, is that there are white... Oh, it's so hard. I don't know why this thing is not adjusting. Okay, I'll show you guys a separate video of it, but there's actually white roots coming out of it. Okay, so you'd be able to see that from this particular medium already. And once this spreads out even more, then I know that I will be confident in transferring this into soil. But I want to make sure that that pot again is clear, so I can continue to monitor the health of it, making sure that I don't water the plant if it's still wet, because otherwise that's what's going to cause root rot. Alright, and the last thing that I would usually be doing research on and looking for, especially if you're buying online for a particular expensive plant, is number one, are they a legit seller? Okay, what do I mean by a legit seller? So you'd probably want to look at their Facebook profile if they're selling in Facebook. Are they posting things that are, you know, about life in general? Are they posting frequently? Are they selling other plants? Are they a legit seller, or is it one of those people who would scam you? Okay, number two, you would also ask what type of payment method they require. Okay, oftentimes if people require payment in advance, I don't go for that. Okay, I would rather pay in person once I actually inspect and receive the plant. Otherwise, you're going to be in a situation where you will get scammed, and there are certainly plant scammers out there, considering plants can get quite expensive depending on how much you want that particular plant. And then the other thing is also with regards to postage. Okay, if you're buying online and it is getting posted, there are a lot of legit sellers out there. You just have to be mindful of it. It's much more safer to pick up the plant, especially for a plant like this. And then the other thing is also looking for reviews. Okay, I didn't say who the seller was, but in the past I did unbox this golden dragon, which I was really excited to unbox. It was something that I was looking forward to having. It's in one of my plants wish list before, but it turned out that that particular plant was infested with some sort of insect. I tried to grow it outdoor, but you know, Melbourne weather doesn't grow philodendrons, so it died eventually. But yeah, just be mindful, because otherwise you would be wasting a lot of money if you don't do proper research on the particular seller that you're buying it from, especially if it's private. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that you guys have found that video useful in terms of how to buy a Monstera Albo and also what to look for. If you guys have found this video useful, then please go ahead and click that like button. Otherwise, if you guys haven't subscribed yet and you're new to this channel, can I encourage you guys to please subscribe to this channel? I will see you guys on the next video. Until then, goodbye and God bless.